Viewers, it's Bonjour France for Prime Minister Modi as he is there for a high-impact diplomatic engagement. The Prime Minister is in the French city of Nice, where the key thrust of the visit is tech and innovation. The Prime Minister, alongside Macron, inaugurated the Bharat Innovates event that brings together top innovation startups from India, France and the world. The two leaders then held a bilateral meeting. Addressing the growing role of innovation in shaping the future, Prime Minister Modi reiterated his mantra of AI for all, emphasizing that technology must remain inclusive, accessible and beneficial to every section of society. He in fact also highlighted the strength of India-France ties. The Prime Minister said that while nations across the world engage in trade and forge strategic partnerships, some relationships are built on a deeper foundation of shared values and common vision.
भारत और फ्रांस का रिश्ता कुछ ऐसा ही है। इस रिश्ते में कनेक्शन भी है, कन्विक्शन भी है। इस रिश्ते में इनोवेशन भी है, इंस्पिरेशन भी है। इस रिश्ते में शेयर्ड वैल्यूज हैं, शेयर्ड विजन भी है और इसी रिश्ते की नींव पर बीते वर्षों में हमने साथ मिलकर नई पहलें शुरू की हैं। आईआईटी दिल्ली के बोर्ड के चेयरपर्सन मेरे मित्र हरीश साल्वे जी ने इसके आयोजन में बड़ा योगदान दिया है और इसके लिए मैं उन्हें और पूरी टीम को बहुत-बहुत बधाई देता हूं।
And well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has once again been invited to attend the G7 summit in France, set to take place from the 15th of June to the 17th. The invitation marks Prime Minister Modi's 7th consecutive appearance at a G7 leader summit as a special guest. As India's presence at the forum becomes increasingly consistent, an important question emerges. Has India gone beyond being a recurring invitee to becoming an indispensable strategic partner for the G7? Our next report gets you more.
India is not a member of the G7. Yet, year after year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues to receive invitations to attend the summit. That raises an important question. Why does India matter so much to one of the world's most influential groups of advanced economies? The G7 consists of the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy and Japan. Together, these nations discuss some of the biggest global challenges from economic growth and security to climate change and emerging technologies. Although India is not a formal member, its presence has become increasingly significant. New Delhi's participation reflects the country's growing economic weight, strategic importance and expanding diplomatic influence across the world. India is now among the world's largest economies and plays a critical role in global supply chains, digital innovation, energy security and climate action. It is also seen as a leading voice of the global south, representing the concerns and aspirations of many developing nations. For the G7, engaging India is no longer optional, it's increasingly essential. Whether the topic is artificial intelligence, critical minerals, resilient supply chains or sustainable development, India's role is difficult to ignore. Prime Minister Modi's repeated invitations also signal something larger: India's transition from being a regional power to a key stakeholder in shaping global conversations. Rather than remaining on the sidelines, India is now participating in discussions that influence international policy and long-term economic strategy. The summit also offers New Delhi an opportunity to strengthen bilateral ties with major global powers. Meetings on the sidelines often lead to discussions on trade, technology partnerships, defense cooperation, investment and geopolitical challenges. Another major reason behind India's growing relevance is its balancing role in an increasingly fragmented world. As geopolitical tensions rise and global supply chains are being reconfigured, many countries see India as a trusted partner capable of contributing to stability and economic resilience. For India, participation in the G7 also provides a platform to advocate for issues affecting developing countries, including equitable climate finance, food security, energy access, and reforms of global governance institutions. In many ways, Modi's invitation is about more than just attending another international summit. It reflects a broader recognition that global challenges require broader participation and that India's voice carries increasing weight in shaping the future. While the G7 remains an exclusive club of advanced economies, its continued outreach to India highlights a changing global order where influence is measured not only by membership but by strategic importance, economic strength, and diplomatic reach. As the world navigates complex crises and shifting power dynamics, India's seat at the table, even as an invited partner, signals its growing role in defining the conversations that matter most.
The G7 meeting is a congregation of some of the most powerful economies, but most of the attention is once again expected to be drawn to the US President Donald Trump. Because remember, it was in June last year when he left the G7 summit midway, and what followed was the first round of attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities. This time, the focus is once again on the US-Iran conflict, and the world is hoping for a swift resolution. Our next report gets you more.
France is all set to host the G7 summit this year. And the French president is going all out to woo Donald Trump and is giving it all that it takes. Dinners, golf, and even a tour at France's Grand Palace. A palace built for kings, gold-covered halls, crystal chandeliers, the famous Hall of Mirrors. Because as world leaders prepare for one of the most important summits of the year, France has a very specific concern: making sure that Donald Trump actually stays. According to reports from Paris, the French president is considering one of the most extravagant diplomatic gestures in his arsenal: a private dinner with Donald Trump at the legendary Palace of Versailles. Just Macron and Trump inside one of the most lavish palaces on earth. The timing is no coincidence. The dinner is being planned around the G7 summit in France, a summit expected to be dominated by two major crises: Russia's war in Ukraine and the growing uncertainty surrounding Iran. Both issues that European leaders desperately want Washington engaged in. But there is a problem: Donald Trump. Because nobody knows exactly what Donald Trump will do. For nearly a decade, world leaders have searched for the formula, the secret recipe for dealing with Trump. Some tried pressure, some even tried criticism, and others tried persuasion. The leaders who had the most success often chose something else: flattery, pageantry, spectacle, and sometimes a touch of royalty. Trump has repeatedly shown admiration for grand settings, royal ceremonies, and historic landmarks. European diplomats have noticed, and Versailles may be the ultimate example. One European official summed it up perfectly: the stakes are unusually high. French officials reportedly fear that Trump could cut his visit short, or worse, derail the summit altogether. Not only this, but the French officials reportedly delayed the summit altogether so that Trump could attend the summit, which was actually scheduled to start from the 14th of June. It was then shifted so that Trump could watch the historic UFC cage fight at White House and then could make it to the summit. Remember, this is the same president who has often criticized multilateral organizations like the G7 and questioned the value of traditional alliances. And right now, tensions are rising everywhere. The Iran conflict remains unresolved. The Strait of Hormuz remains a flashpoint. Ukraine continues to dominate Europe's security agenda. The last thing European leaders want is a summit overshadowed by a dramatic Trump exit, just like what happened in Canada last year. So Macron appears to be preparing an insurance policy. But then there's another question: will any of this actually work? because the geopolitical landscape has changed dramatically. Trump's tariff battles, disagreements over Ukraine, growing tensions over Iran. Many European officials privately wonder whether charm alone can still influence Washington. Flattery only works when there's leverage, and Europe's leverage is limited. As world leaders gather to discuss the war, trade and global security, the most important negotiations might not happen inside the summit hall, but they might happen beneath the chandeliers of Versailles, over dinner between Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump. Because in 2026, the battle for global diplomacy may begin with a seat at the King's table. Bureau Report, Times Now.
And on the sidelines of the G7 summit, the Prime Minister is expected to meet the US President Donald Trump on the 17th of June. This will be the first meeting between the two leaders since their last interaction in February 2025. A lot has happened since then. The tariff war broke out. Trump endorsed the hellhole comment against India, and the United States also kick-started its war against Iran. 3 sailors were killed in a US attack just recently along the Gulf of Oman. So a multitude of issues remain unresolved between India and the United States, and that's why the world is very closely watching the moment when the two leaders come face to face once again.
All eyes are on the G7 summit, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump are expected to meet for the first time since February 2025. The meeting is likely to provide an opportunity for both leaders to review the trajectory of the India-US ties and discuss key geopolitical developments shaping the Indo-Pacific and beyond. The timing of this meeting is also crucial as it comes on the backdrop of the tensions in the Middle East and the attacks on tankers carrying Indian seafarers in the Gulf. 3 Indian sailors were killed in these attacks. Officials familiar with the preparations say that the trade and economic cooperation are expected to dominate discussions. New Delhi and Washington have been working to address outstanding tariff issues and expand bilateral commerce with both governments, expressing interest in strengthening economic engagement. Defense cooperation is also expected to be high on the agenda. India and the United States have significantly expanded military ties over the past decade through joint exercises, technology partnerships and defense procurement agreements. Regional security concerns, including developments in the Indo-Pacific, China's growing strategic footprint, and the ongoing conflicts in Europe and the Middle East are also likely to feature in the talks. The expected meeting comes as India continues to position itself as a key strategic partner for Western nations while maintaining an independent foreign policy approach. The G7 summit will bring together leaders from the world's major economies to discuss global economic challenges, energy security, emerging technologies, and international security issues. Although India is not a member of the G7, it has been invited as a guest nation, reflecting its growing global influence. Diplomatic observers say a Modi-Trump meeting could set the tone for bilateral engagement in the months ahead and also provide clarity on how the two countries plan to navigate an increasingly complex international landscape. As global challenges continue to mount, the expected Modi-Trump talks on the sidelines of the G7 summit are being closely watched for signals on trade, security cooperation, and the future direction of one of the world's most important strategic partnerships. Bureau Report, Times Now.
And well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the broadcast. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.
The Newshour.